everybody, this is Carrie. I've got a couple messages lately from some of my subscribers who are asking about how I learned Korean, so I thought today I would give you some resources that I used so that maybe you guys can start your own language journey. So the most important book that I have, they don't actually have here today, but it's called Survival Korean, and it's by Steven Revere, who was the first non-Korean to get a master's in teaching Korean, and he got that master's at Seoul National University, so he knows what he's talking about. So this book is really useful. It tells us casual language and formal language, and he explains all of the kind of like approaches to the situations that he gives us, like kind of Korean cultural information. And he also explains the grammar in English, which is very useful. And he explains the Hanja, like the the Chinese origin of some of the words, like the days of the week, which is really useful. And he also gives homework. And the homework has an answer key, which is very useful. So I love this book. I've used the whole thing. I've written all over it, so it's very, very useful. So I'd recommend that one. It's called Survival Korean by Steven Revere. So that's the first book. The next book is this one here. So it's called Teach Yourself Korean. Teach Yourself Korean. So I don't actually own this book, but my friend who's filming owns this book. So every time I went to their house, I would look through it and try and memorize another phrase and use it. But I remember our friend went to the store and they offered him a bag, and he learned a phrase in here, so he said "표리 없어요," and I guess that was like way too formal, so the guy laughed at him. So I guess you have to be aware of the level of formality of everything you do. So that one, it could be quite useful. I also have a book similar to this. It's like a small handbook that I think is made by like a Korean publishing company. So some of them are good and some of them are not good. They're kind of inconsistent. So the one that I have isn't that good, and I only used it a little bit because the writing isn't actually in Korean. Like, it was only written like as romanized, which was kind of weird. So also that book, it had phrases, but the phrases were kind of weird and overly formal. So I remember when I first learned how to speak a little bit of Korean, people were complimenting me. They would say "한국말 잘해요," which means your Korean's really good, and then I would try to say like, no, it's not good. So I learned a phrase in the book that said "아니요, 아직도 한국어 서투른 편입니다," which means like, I'm still clumsy at Korean. So it was supposed to mean I'm a beginner, but whenever I said that, people would be like, that's a ridiculous thing to say. So I guess if you're going to use a book like that, you should run what you're going to say by a Korean person and see if it actually makes sense or not. So these are kind of hit and miss. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them, but they would be good just for glancing at. Another thing that I did is I learned all about the particles, the grammar particles, by using this site called learnkoreanlanguage.com/particles. So they have like the E and ga particles, as well as the ul and rul particles, which is really useful. And they have homework on that too, which is great. I also used KoreanClass101.com a ton, and now I'm using TalkToMeInKorean.com, so I've already talked about both those sites in another video, but they're both great. And I also use Hyunwoo-san's YouTube channel, which is great too. He gives tons of examples, and a couple of years ago he was posting lots of videos, just black and white videos of useful phrases to say. And I also do other like YouTube searches, like I'll just go there and type in like blah 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 English sub. So I love Yashim Manman, the Korean like talk show, so I would always type in Yashim Manman English sub and then watch it with English subs and then write down like an expression that I thought was funny, so I learned a lot that way. And I also watched Gokboren Namja with English subtitles, and I learned lots of like ridiculous expressions from that too, like "나 너한테 어떤 사람입니까?" like all these ridiculous like romantic kind of expressions, but it's still fun. And I also learned from those sites like expressions like 그렇죠, like the kind of fluency and also like 그냥, you know, just people saying 그냥, like just. So that's basically what I've done, but I would encourage everyone to try and make a Korean friend so that you can just ask questions and be honest and, you know, run things by them. And I think Korean's a great language to learn, so Korean people generally are really willing to help you. So be curious and learn and post videos of yourself talking Korean, and we can share back and forth. So I hope this helps. Bye!